Hello, future biologists. Welcome to our exciting journey into the microscopic world of the cell. Today, we are diving deep into ribosomes, tiny but mighty structures essential for life. We'll start with the basics, then gradually explore their complex roles, mechanisms, and even their connection to diseases and modern science. Get ready to unlock the secrets of these cellular protein factories. Let's kick things off with the easy level. We'll understand what ribosomes are and why they are so crucial for every living cell. Imagine cells as busy cities. Ribosomes are like the small but vital factories within these cities. They are tiny, granular structures, so small you can only see them with a powerful electron microscope. What makes them unique is that, unlike many other cell parts, they don't have a membrane around them. Think of them as open-plan workshops. You'll find them either floating freely in the cell's jelly-like cytoplasm, making proteins for internal use, or attached to a network called the endoplasmic reticulum, giving it a rough appearance, where they make proteins destined for export or membranes. So, what's their big job? Ribosomes are the cell's protein builders. They perform a process called protein synthesis. Proteins are incredibly important. They build your muscles, grow your hair, carry oxygen in your blood, and even fight off germs. Ribosomes essentially read genetic instructions, like a recipe, and then assemble amino acids, which are the building blocks, into long protein chains. Without these tiny protein factories, cells couldn't grow, repair, or function, making them absolutely vital for all life. For example, cells that produce many proteins for secretion, like those in your pancreas, are packed with ribosomes on their rough air. Now, let's test your understanding with a few quick questions. Pause the video and try to answer them. 1. What is the primary function of ribosomes? 2. Name 2 locations where ribosomes are found in a cell. 3. Why are ribosomes considered non-membranous organelles? Think about what you've learned. Ready to go a bit deeper? In the medium level, we'll explore the structure of ribosomes, their different types, and how they carry out their vital protein-making job. Ribosomes were first spotted by George Palade in the 1950s using an electron microscope. He saw them as dense little particles. Structurally, every ribosome is like a two-piece puzzle, made of a large subunit and a small subunit. These pieces are built from ribosomal RNA, or rRNA, and many different proteins. They only snap together when they're actually making a protein. Interestingly, ribosomes in simpler cells like bacteria, called prokaryotic cells, are smaller, 70s, than those in complex cells like ours, eukaryotic cells, 80s. This S unit tells us about their size and density. In eukaryotic cells, ribosomes have specific locations that determine what kind of proteins they make. Free ribosomes, floating in the cytoplasm, produce proteins that stay inside the cell, like the enzymes that help with energy production. Then there are bound ribosomes, which are stuck to the rough endoplasmic reticulum or the nuclear envelope. These are busy making proteins that will either be sent out of the cell, embedded in cell membranes, or delivered to other organelles like lysosomes. It's like different factory lines for different protein destinations. The main task of ribosomes is protein synthesis, also known as translation. Think of it as translating a secret code. Messenger RNA, or mRNA, brings the genetic code from the DNA to the ribosome. Transfer RNA, or tRNA, acts like a delivery truck, bringing the correct amino acids, the protein building blocks, to the ribosome, matching them to the mRNA code. The ribosome then carefully links these amino acids together, one by one, forming a long chain that eventually folds into a functional protein. It's a precise and essential process for all life. Time for some medium-level questions. Take a moment to think these through. 1. Who discovered ribosomes? 2. What are the two main subunits of a ribosome composed of? 3. Differentiate between prokaryotic and eukaryotic ribosomes based on size. 4. Explain the functional difference between free and bound ribosomes. 5. What is the role of mRNA and tRNA in protein synthesis? Now, let's challenge ourselves with the hard level. We'll delve into the intricate details of ribosome assembly, the exact steps of protein synthesis, and their medical importance. Ribosomes are far more complex than they appear. A eukaryotic 80S ribosome, for instance, has a large 60S subunit and a small 40S subunit. The 60S subunit contains 3 types of rRNA, like the 28S and 5.8S, plus nearly 50 proteins. The 40S subunit has 118S rRNA and about 33 proteins. These runners aren't just structural, they're the true catalysts, performing the actual protein-making chemistry. The proteins primarily help stabilize this complex structure. This intricate assembly process, called ribosome biogenesis, primarily happens in a special part of the nucleus called the nucleolus, where runners are processed and combined with imported proteins. Protein synthesis, or translation, unfolds in 3 stages: initiation, elongation, and termination. The ribosome acts like a molecular machine with 3 crucial binding sites for tRNA molecules. The A site is where new amino acids arrive. The P site holds the growing protein chain. And the E site is where used strands exit. During elongation, the ribosome forms a peptide bond between the incoming amino acid and the growing chain, a reaction catalyzed by the rRNA itself. Then, the ribosome shifts, moving everything along, ready for the next amino acid. This precise movement ensures the protein is built correctly. The differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic ribosomes aren't just academic, they're medically significant. Many antibiotics exploit these differences. They selectively target bacterial 70S ribosomes, stopping bacterial protein synthesis without harming our 80S ribosomes. For example, tetracyclines block the A site, preventing new amino acids from binding. Chloramphenicol stops the peptide bond formation, and erythromycin prevents the ribosome from moving along the mRNA. This selective targeting is why these drugs are effective against bacterial infections, showcasing the ribosome's role as a vital drug target. Time for some challenging questions. 1. Describe the key components of a eukaryotic 80S ribosome. 2. Where does ribosome biogenesis primarily occur in eukaryotic cells? 3. Explain the function of the A, P, and E sites during translation. 4. How do antibiotics like tetracyclines or chloramphenicol work by targeting ribosomes? 5. What is a polysome and what is its significance? 6. Why is rRNA considered a ribozyme? 7. Briefly explain the 3 main stages of protein synthesis. All right, molecular explorers. Welcome to the hardest level. Here, we'll dive into the cutting-edge science, historical breakthroughs, and complex mechanisms that make ribosomes one of the most fascinating cellular structures. The journey to understanding ribosomes began with George Paladay's pioneering electron microscopy work in the mid-1950s. He initially called them microsomes, pinpointing these dense particles as the cell's protein factories. This discovery was a cornerstone, validating the central dogma, the idea that genetic information flows from DNA to RNA to protein. Initially, proteins were thought to be the sole catalysts in the cell, but a groundbreaking revelation later showed that ribosomal RNA, not just proteins, performs the actual peptide bond formation, making the ribosome a ribozyme. This shifted our understanding of RNA's ancient and catalytic roles. Let's zoom into the ribosome's molecular engine. The peptidyl transferase activity, the actual formation of peptide bonds, is not done by a protein enzyme but by the ribosomal RNA itself, specifically within the large subunit. The ribosome has 3 binding pockets, the A site for incoming amino acid runners, the P site holding the tRNA with a growing peptide chain, and the E site where depleted tRNAs exit. This sophisticated choreography involves precise movements, guided by elongation factors, ensuring that the mRNA is read accurately and amino acids are added sequentially. It's a marvel of nanomachinery, where RNA takes center stage in catalysis, supported by proteins for stability and precise navigation. Ribosomes aren't uniform across all cellular compartments. Eukaryotic cells, besides their cytoplasmic ATS ribosomes, also house specialized ribosomes within mitochondria and chloroplasts. These organellar ribosomes remarkably resemble prokaryotic 70S ribosomes. This striking similarity is a powerful piece of evidence for the endosymbiotic theory, which proposes that these organelles evolved from free-living bacteria engulfed by ancestral eukaryotic cells. This ancient lineage also explains why mitochondrial ribosomes, like bacterial ones, are susceptible to certain prokaryotic antibiotics. Furthermore, the regulation of protein synthesis is incredibly complex, involving numerous eukaryotic initiation and elongation factors that precisely control when and how much protein is made, adapting to the cell's dynamic needs. Ribosomal dysfunction can have profound health consequences, leading to ribosomopathies, a group of genetic disorders. Conditions like Diamond-Blackfan anemia, characterized by bone marrow failure, stem from defects in ribosome biogenesis or function. These diseases highlight that ribosomes are not just protein factories but also crucial regulators of cell growth, differentiation, and stress responses. Beyond pathology, the ribosome is a frontier in synthetic biology. Scientists are engineering ribosomes to incorporate non-natural amino acids, expanding the chemical diversity of proteins for novel therapeutics or materials. The ribosome's legacy extends from fundamental biology to cutting-edge biotechnological innovation. Now for the ultimate challenge. Here are the first 5 hardest level questions. 1. Explain the significance of the ribosome being a ribozyme and identify the rRNA component responsible for this activity. 2. How does the endosymbiotic theory explain the characteristics of mitochondrial and chloroplast ribosomes? 3. Describe the precise molecular events at the A, P, and E sites during the elongation phase of translation. 4. Discuss the role of eukaryotic initiation factors, EIFs, in regulating protein synthesis. 5. What are ribosomopathies, and how do they demonstrate the broader cellular roles of ribosomes? Let's continue with the remaining 5 toughest questions. 6. How do the structural and functional differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic ribosomes form the basis for selective antibiotic action? Provide specific examples. 7. Beyond protein synthesis, what other critical cellular processes are ribosomes or their biogenesis involved in, as evidenced by ribosomopathies? 8. Explain the concept of a polysome and its importance in cellular efficiency. 9. In the context of synthetic biology, how are researchers attempting to engineer ribosomes, and what are the potential applications? 10. Trace the historical development of our understanding of ribosomes, from their initial observation to the discovery of their catalytic nature. And that concludes our deep dive into the fascinating world of ribosomes. We started with the basics, explored their intricate mechanisms, and even touched upon their medical and evolutionary significance. Remember, understanding these tiny cellular components is key to grasping the complexity of life itself. For more such engaging and in-depth educational content, visit synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for continuous learning. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.